Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Squad Academy, where we're just two friends just chatting and just spilling and just say whatever they want to say about the African tech ecosystem. I'm Dakbo, your tech. I'm your tech guy. And I won't call myself a tech guru. I'm just the regular tech guy who loves technology, but also just passionate about the African tech ecosystem. And Edisa, the
What's
son
good?
of the soil,
Hmm.
the number one investor, the number one finance guy in Nigeria,
Ah, ah,
since
too much.
jackpot to the US, and now
Too much.
he's living the dream, living the American dream. Babel, just introduce yourself, Babel.
So you guys already know. Don't mind that for too much hype. I'm just your average finance guy, just doing my bits to contribute to the world.
So tech, finance, you know that's the perfect balance. But yeah, we're here this week again. This time we don't have any guest. So it's just us discussing hot topics about things that happened within the Nigerian business ecosystem, or tech ecosystem this week. So today we have three main topics that we are going to cover, right? So the first one will be Flutterwave. So there was a report that came out this week about Flutterwave and them trying to recoup about $24 million that was accidentally sent to about 6,000 random customers. Then after that, we'll go and talk about the Wasoko merger, and the whole fallout with that whole merger. And lastly, we'll talk about Multichoice and their settlement with the FIRS. There was a report that came out this week about Flutterwave um, about Flutterwave going to court and trying to recoup about $24 million that was lost to some customers through some unauthorized POS transactions. And when reading into this, I think it was about 6,000 customers or account holders that were affected by this across 35 banks. And I believe this happened sometime in 2023, but they just got the ruling, I believe, February 1st, if I recall correctly. But when you dig it deep into this, you actually realize what really happened, right? But I guess we can just have a conversation about this because it's funny. Funny enough, the other day we were just talking about, and we'll dive into this, right? But the other day we were just talking about Flutterwave. I think it was last week or so, or 2 weeks ago. We are talking about Flutterwave. Why? Our stance on the company, what they've been doing, expanding right to different regions, trying to put themselves in the best light. We believe they've been going through some road shows as well, trying to build the momentum and try to go public, only for this to come out, right? And this will probably set them back, right? But before we delve into that area and how this could affect them, let's even talk more about this report that came out. What's your take on this whole thing? Because $24 million is a lot of money. It's going to take them some time to try to recoup these funds. And you also have to think about the fact that I believe this happened in October last year, if I recall
Yeah,
correctly. And that's been a period of time for funds that have been accidentally sent to some account holders. Now, there's more that's going to go into because that's 3, 4 months. Folks might have spent that money. We don't know yet, right? That money could be
yeah,
gone.
yeah,
I'm talking about once money lands your account today, there's no asking too much questions, but withdrawing sharp, man, right?
exactly.
That could be God's blessing to you in hindsight, but those funds could be gone. But then again, when you dig deep into this, you actually realize the need for KYC, right? KYC and how the lack of that could make this difficult for them to trace in certain situations. But let me throw this at you. Like, what's your take on this whole thing? Like, just that.
Yeah, I think it's a breakthrough for Flutterwave. I'm happy that they were able to get the court order. It must have been, painstaking, waiting, and hoping on the court system to grant this on time. It's also painful that they had to go this route, because ideally, if you have a dispute, the two financial institutions, meaning Flutterwave and the bank, should be able to settle this, and at least have some step-by-step process, for okay, we believe this person got funds that weren't theirs or whatever into the account, our money. Let's have a resolution. That's a dispute. That's like, transaction disputes. you can do that. You can have a claim, and the bank should have that process to make you whole again. So the fact that the banks played deaf ears to that, and they had to quickly run to the courts to supersede the bank, that's that's an indictment on the banking system. And then the individuals themselves, our people, Nigerians, I feel bad for sorry because by now, nothing. These guys are probably, they will do what they do. I mean, 2 days is even more, too much time for them to like clean their account and move on with their lives. It's now the issue of if they moved it, if they've got money that you're not expecting to your Echo Bank, for example, not putting Echo Bank on the spot. Echo Bank, for example, and you cleaned it out, moved it to them because you still need to bank, you still need to put it somewhere, right? So maybe they moved it to that FCMB or whatever. They've already spent it since then. But now they purposely kept Echo Bank empty. They probably even deactivated their accounts and are now only banking with FCMB. You should still be able to track them continuously because the same person, BVN and user to keep chasing the person. But I don't think the court order goes that far. So sadly, maybe just be follow up with that bank where they got the credit to. If anything is still there, you kind of have a claim to that. So let's see. I suspect that maybe they'll recover maybe 30% of this. And when you think of the legal fees you probably spent on the court order and everything, that's the another. So it's sadly almost a fool's errand, and I just hope they learn from it. I heard the underlying issue was I think POS settlements happening without what's it called? Real balances and things like that. So I think that happened during that Naira crunch period. So hopefully they learn from it. But I'm glad that at least they were able to get something positive from the court system.
I mean, that's a very good point, right? And I'm more digging into this story, right? I couldn't get a clear understanding of how this could have happened, right? There's no clear explanation of what happened, right? It mostly just tries to talk about the fact that it happened accidentally. It was not authorized. But do you know exactly what happened in the back end? Like how do you accidentally across multiple POS agents, right? Because they kind of put this on the agent, said it was an error on the agent side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you accidentally, or is there something behind the closed door that we're not thinking about? But like, how do you accidentally send the total of $24 million to 6,000 different account holders? Like, was it a software glitch that just, I mean, that kind of made that happen? Because I don't necessarily understand how this happened or who is taking responsibility. I don't think Flutterwave took responsibility of this, right? They kind of put this on the POS agents, right? So how did this happen at such a large scale, right? Do you know?
Yeah, so the way the POS agent system works, right? You come to them, you give them cash, and you tell them to transfer it to your accounts XYZ, or you tell them to move money from, or if somebody else is paying. Somebody comes and says, "I want to pay." I come to a POS agent and say, "I want to pay that for 4,000 naira." Okay, I'm doing that from here. You tell POS agents to make that remittance to Dapo through you, so it move from your account to another account. Where the issue happens is where there was really no money in your account, right, or less than that, but the payment still went through. What people don't know is that settlement is really T+2 or T+1. That's 1 or 2 days to settle. But the financial system is so robust that on the other end, Flutterwave makes the funds available to you in real time, whereas they wait for maybe a day or two to actually get that money back into themselves. So meaning if I wanted to pay Dapo maybe 4,000 naira, what's it called, through the Flutterwave agent system, I tell them move 2,000 naira, 4,000 naira from my account to Dapo. That money is now on the way, right? But today, Flutterwave will use their own money to post 4,000 naira on Dapo's account to Echo Bank or whatever. So that money is now more, it's not more in Flutterwave's possession, it's now in Echo Bank. And Echo Bank is telling Dapo that Dapo has it in his possession. Whereas Flutterwave is waiting till maybe 2 days after that to receive the money that I actually told them to get, right? So when he now waited for like maybe a week, 2 weeks, and I said, we didn't get any credit on our own end, but we're already for free. We're already giving these guys all this money. That's where the issue started arising. And apparently, imagine this across like you say, 6,000 customers, each of them doing different amounts of transactions, maybe 100K, 200K, or no one is doing 1M. And also, apparently, people started noticing this, right? And people started capitalizing off of it, so purposely doing it, whereas they knew that they have no funds in their accounts. So that made the whole system tricky. And the banks, on the other end, I also understand from their perspective because why would they want to give Flutterwave back the money? Flutterwave is saying, look, I didn't receive the money that Edosa said he sent to Dapo. But I've already given Dapo my own money. So please refund me back. The bank will say, no, there's our own customer. He has the money with him. If I send it back, the customer will tell me, where's my money? The customer will go after me. So the banks held their own and didn't. So Flutterwave found themselves in a very, very weird position. Now, they can either go after the sender, the person that initiated the transaction, whereas there was nothing happening. And mind you, this sender is now the sender, probably so the POS agents as well, conniving. So many people. But those go after the recipient and say, look, you received money that clearly wasn't paid for, bring it back. And I guess, like I said, the banks wouldn't have been cooperative as expected. So they had to override them and go towards the court system. This happened during, if I'm not mistaken, during the whole Naira scarcity issue. Because for the guys on the inside, like in the fintech system, we know that there was a lot of discrepancy in settlements. The Nigerian banking sector was basically working on vibes and trust during the October, November period for like the election. That's how dangerous it was. It was very, Naira was scarce, everything was moving slowly. So many transactions were going on online, while our settlement system wasn't that robust or fast to settle quickly. And so all those gaps, imagine 1% error rates, but multiplied by what's it called, a volume of 10, because everybody's now transacting online. So that's what happened. And then Flutterwave obviously took the writing on the wall, or the murmuring inside is that many other smaller fintech companies also took a hit, right, from this situation. But they are not as big as Flutterwave and Co. to get their own court system or get their own money back. So many companies, many small fintech companies actually went bust due to this settlement issue.
This whole thing has happened. Well, both on the same page. I was trying to dig into it to see, but then again, historical data is not really available, right? I was trying to see like the instances of such a similar situation in the past, right? When banks, Nigerian banks or fintechs, accidentally transferred funds to other people, right? And what percentage they're able to recoup, right? Over a period of time, but I couldn't even find anything. Data is really private in Nigeria, and ChatGPT could never query anything. There was nothing like I tried querying, and I couldn't dig anything. So, but I think we're both on the same page when we say that they probably won't be able to recoup more than 30-40% of those funds. 30% is even a stretch.
Yeah.
Right? This happened all the way in October, bro. This didn't happen last week or 2 days ago. This happened all the way in October last year. Christmas has come and gone. Yeah, people have done Christmas show, people have done New Year show, people have chopped chicken. With all this FX stuff, those funds are gone, man.
Yeah, it's gone,
man. And you can't blame the customers for anything. You can't try to. There's not enough. I mean, whether you want to call it KYC, whether you want to call it credit history, but there's not enough that you can use to hold people accountable.
Yeah, and there's also data protection, because you can't say, payment facilitator, you can't say we pay this person, because it wasn't you that paid them, it was technically somebody else that did the transaction.
Someone paid them, exactly.
There's your money, yes. You just use your money in the interim. You can't say, okay, I paid the person, give me person details, that number, everything, you can't do that without, the bank can do that freely, without court. Exactly. And apparently they said they're giving them access to email, phone number, and WhatsApp. So they will try and be reaching them.
I think that's what I think for that part, they just want to show at least they're trying to recoup these funds, right? But they know there's no way. Unless they implement unless they implement Pampay's methods.
They need to partner with Pampay debt collectors.
Methods. But we are not recommending that in any way. No, we are not recommending that in any way. But yeah, those funds are gone, man. But I think at least I think most of that for them, I think they're trying to, if more than anything, they're trying to show what they're trying to do to correct this, to correct this wrong. But I'm more interested in how they prevent this in the future. Because then again, there's no really visibility on what happened, right? We don't necessarily know how this could have happened. I mean, I guess we can stipulate on what happened, right? But these guys keep a lot of these things private. But like, how do they prevent this in the future? Because like you said, they're just more like a facilitator, right? They're not an actual bank, right? Most of like a facilitator. So how do you prevent this in the future? But most importantly, how does it even affect the plans that they have to expand and go public? Because this is only going to dent that. $24 million now, that's going to be a negative on their books. and this is a company that's still trying to be profitable,
Yeah.
right? So this is going to be a massive loss in the book, right? And we both know they haven't raised funds in a while, right?
Yep.
And they're still relying on what they've raised to maintain operations. And yes, of course, there's revenue there, but it's not. But they're not cash flow positive. I don't think they're cash flow positive, if you ask me, right? So, I mean, what do you think? Just because we spent about 2 minutes on this, but like, how do you think this is going to dent their plans?
It's, I think it's sad. I mean, the cash is like inventory for them. So you're out of your inventory. It reduces how much you participate. Then also, if that cash was in the bank, at least it would have been any interest or something for them. But it's not. It was, and probably in naira. So that naira is less in value now today. So it is a loss across the board. I doubt 24M would hurt. In fact, it's um, very awash with cash. I doubt that will hurt them too much. We just got a new court case favorable in Kenya that almost opened up their bank account there. I think it was frozen for a while. So, and it was frozen for like almost a year, and that they still didn't hurt them. So I think they will be fine. But it's just it's an annoying pain that, oh, this happened to us. We probably recoup maybe 20% of it eventually. But
But
luckily,
these dollars are talking about, or this is not naira.
it is. But you know that payment processing. So every day somebody else is also processing through them. They also get to keep the person's money and what's it called, and settle the payments with that person's money and wait 2 days or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just it almost, and if you check with the money that they had frozen in Kenya, it was either this same amount or something more than this, right? And they were able to,
With the whole licensing stuff, right?
yeah, they were able to, what's it called, still go on. I mean, and also worst case, they definitely have access to credit and all of that to quickly
Yeah.
shore up the stuff. It's just an annoying trend, and who knows, they may even go higher than this and maybe go all out and take the banks themselves to court and say they disrupted operation, so
Sure.
they want to now hold the banks liable. You never can tell.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when things like this happen, right? Yeah, there are a few things. Just my from my time in corporate America, right? There are a few things that can happen, right? Of course, if they don't recoup those funds, I mean, don't think it's all good and dandy. No, they're gonna find a way to recoup. To recoup those funds, right? It's either they pass on that cost to the customers, so it could be the banks or whoever uses the infrastructure, right? Because I mean, Flutterwave is more like an infrastructure that banks use, right? So
Yeah,
they either pass on that cost in maybe like fees or a little bit of more percentage on the transaction cost or whatever it is, right? Or you see some layoffs, right? You see some layoffs to try to recoup so this one, so right. So don't just think everything is good and dandy, right? They'll find a way to make this money back. At the end of the main goal
yeah,
of a company is to, first of all, be profitable, make money, right? So, but over the next couple of weeks, we'll see, right? Because then again, they still have a fiduciary duty, right, to operate and serve the interest of the shareholders, right? So, but yeah, now that we have that out of the way, let's move on to the next topic. There was a report that came out this week again about Wasoko, right? So for those who don't know what Wasoko is an e-commerce platform based out of Kenya. And they announced, I believe in December last year, that they would be merging, right, with an Egyptian startup, an Egyptian company, Max AB. Um, and that merger is supposed to be complete by March this year. Now the problem with that is there's also internal conflict regarding this, right? Because the Wasoko employees said that they weren't given enough time, or not enough time, but like they weren't informed about this deal ahead of time. So apparently, all the employees within the company only found out about this merger also in December, and I think it was a company-wide call where they also had some of the Max AB exec team on there as well, and that's how they found out, right, in December, and the merger was supposed to be done by March 2024. So that was like a 3-month gap in between. So Ahsoka employees were really not really receptive to the whole idea and the approach that it took towards sharing that news, because funny enough, the whole news even became public that same December as well. So it was kind of like close enough to, like, normally you give more time, right? But Wasoko
Yes.
came out and said, I don't know if they came out, but their whole approach was, well, they didn't want to really put it out there to the employees because they didn't want anything to affect the merger, right? They didn't want anything that could cause the fallout of the merger, right? But then again, as a company, like your employees make the company, right? So you need to trust your employees with such news, right? Because they're going to be the ones really. I mean, they've been the ones who got you there, so you have to trust that gets you to the next phase. I don't know, but it's a funny one because all that stuff happened. They said nothing was really going to change anything. The merger was going to happen, but fast forward to January, they now laid off 100 people, right? And this is Wasoko, they laid off 100 people, right? Now since then, about 9 or 10 of those 100 people have filed a lawsuit. They at least sued Wasoko, saying they were wrongfully terminated. They weren't given enough time to plan the finances and get everything and get their books in order before they were laid off. Oh man, even the compensation package or the not just compensation package, but the severance package wasn't good enough, right? So they went to court, and the court actually granted them. They actually ruled in the favor, right, saying that Wasco not allowed to terminate them in the meantime, right? But I think there's still more work going on in the background between Wasoko and the employees to try to come up with a package that would be that would be beneficial to both sides, to both parties, right? So I want to get a take on this because I mean, I currently work within a company that's also going through some kind of spin-off, right? I'm spinning off from a major entity into a standalone company, right? And that we got way ahead of time in the sense of the spin-off is supposed to be done by next year, or
Yeah.
either by Q3 this year or January next year. But then again, we heard about this in October last year, right?
Mhm.
But funny enough, there was also some kind of similarities because it became public the same day that we heard internally,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's such a weird one. So I think it's a norm, right? In the sense of
I was about to come in there and like let you know that best practice is to carry your employees along, but only after like you guys already have an MOU or like some like a draft agreement with the for the potential merger. So when it's already concrete, right? Because the signing date is very different from the what's it called, the merger date, right? Even after the merger date, there's still maybe like a 1 year integration plan, right? So once we've agreed that okay, we're actually merging, then we can tell them. Otherwise, why are we telling our employees we're thinking of buying this company? Sure, okay, what do you think? Anybody who can buy that stock or whatever, it's a public company. You get, or they just disrupt, they'll just be playing. They can't quit and join the company there. It's games. It's too much. If I was an investor in that company, I wouldn't want them to tell the employees when we're still negotiating the prospects, right? It's only after it's said and done that we can now discuss it with them and say, okay, they think it comes, I've signed it today, there's an agreement in place, it takes effect. I think they even said it takes effect in March this year. And then for March this year, we may even still do like a phased out integration plan till March next year. I think the real issue the staff are contending with is the layoff, and that is fine. You can say, okay, we got laid off too abruptly. Severance package that he spoke about was a lie, was audio, and things like that. And depending on the labor laws in that country, they can they can argue it out, rightfully so. And that also speaks to the integration plan they have. If the integration plan was married today, fired tomorrow, that is very bad. That is the worst way to make anybody feel at home in the integration plan, right? But to say, I think the other bit of their argument of we didn't hear about the merger, I think they should. If I was advising the employees or the employee union, I would say, look, remove that from the conversation and just argue about the manner at which they were laid off. Because we're talking about a friendly merger. What if the company badly needed to merge today, otherwise the company will be evaporated? Yeah, do we need to do all hands meeting? I said, do you guys like Google? Should we merge with them? No, man, it's not that kind of conversation,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But definitely, I think I mean, you guys know that when I like this topic a lot, M&A in Africa. So here we haven't seen a Kenya company and a North African Egyptian company merge. So it's not just e-commerce local, but now e-commerce intra-Africa. And it's another thing we talk about a lot. We haven't talked about enough is intra-Africa trade. So
Yeah.
once these guys merge, you are seeing the e-commerce, the main metric there is gross merchandise value. Right,
Yep.
that's your
Yeah.
stock, your inventory. That's also that's what's moving on your platform. You're seeing
Yeah.
that double or whatever the size is. You see that increase overnight. That's impressive. That's great. You get then the next thing you're seeing is your customer base increasing overnight. But in this situation, because two different countries, you are seeing your geographic spread also widen. So whatever goods are moving in Kenya, you can test that out in Egypt and open up a new market. Whatever goods are moving in Egypt, you can test that out in Kenya. Kenya is the center of East Africa, so you have exposure to that as well. You have what's going on in Egypt. So it's I think on paper, it's an interesting measure, and hopefully we'll see what comes out of this. We'll keep tracking it. But then this first response, the news were getting out of the measure, meaning they didn't handle the human side of it well. If they're already getting this kind of backlash, and hopefully it doesn't. You know how European measures are, European authorities are. They're very, very by the book. Wasn't it the EU regulators that broke the merger between Figma and what are those guys?
Adobe.
Adobe, yeah. So the regulators can be very brutal. So if the regulators are saying, look, this measure is a net loss for Kenyans, the job loss, they could almost really, throw it away. So they have to be very careful about how we manage the human aspects and laying off. I mean, again, the panel talk a lot about private equity, and if we all know to extract value, there's a lot of synergies. If you merge with a company that are doing the same thing with overnight, you probably don't need that. You don't need two admin. You could create remove some of the overlap. But don't do that overnight like this now. You get, and I think I read it that the main engineering and product team will now be in Egypt because that's the stronger team. So there's some synergies, but I think there has to be a more human way of doing it. So they mentioned it on the article as if the previous article came out in December that look, we plan on giving them severance package. They have stock options, they can still exercise. So it sounded very, very good. So maybe they just gave us audio because the way the actual employees are reacting now, fast forward to today, acting as if the company was lying about all of that. So
yeah,
good idea, but poorly managed.
Yeah, I think that's really what it boils down to, right? Because I was gonna say same thing with my current company, right? It's kind of like we heard about it. What am I saying? I heard about it because I'm also in the investor relations kind of community, right? So I get these emails.
They probably consulted you for that guy. What do you think about this? Do you have your green light to proceed? You have your blessing.
So I'm always getting a flow of emails on a daily basis. I get daily reports of what's going on within the company, right?
Yes.
So that day I think we're on a staff call, we're on a staff meeting, and I get the email at the end of business day, right when the stock market closed, and it was like, oh, they're spinning off into a separate entity, and that's the business that I work for, like it's a certain business within the company, right? And I remember doing something. I was just like, wait, hold up. Like, do you guys know about this? Right. And the whole meeting took a turn. Right. And that's literally how my team found out. However, my boss already knew about that. Right.
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, well, I guess the cat's out the bag. Right.
Yeah.
And it ended up turning into this massive meeting where I had to pull in other junior folks into the call, right? Just so we could manage that because because folks could be freaking out. Oh my God, we're spinning off that. Like, what does this mean?
What does
right?
that mean? Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's what it boils down to. But we found out that day. But I think the difference is we found out that day. Maybe I'll say compared to this Wasoko situation, they handled it a lot more humane way, right? The merger is not supposed to be complete. Sorry, the spin-off not supposed to be complete until next year, right? We still have enough time for people to plan if they want to quit, if they want to do something else, if they want to join a different group within the company. There's still that time, right? But it's not as these Wasco guys, they're trying to wrap this whole thing up by March. Of course, you're still going to have process optimization, business group consolidation.
They're trying to squeeze every dollar. That's what it looks like. It looks like they're trying to quickly realize that cost saving.
That cost saving.
And that is too greedy.
It's too much, right? It's too much. I think that's the main problem. Them already laying off 100 people, and 100 out of, I'm sure they don't even have up to 500, 600 in total, right?
Yeah.
They want to get laying off 100 people out of the entire business in January. Shows that they've already been planning this whole thing even before the news came out, and rightfully so, right? But it's just the approach that was taken. Now go back to what you said, because I don't want to take away from the fact that all this has happened. We agree that they should have gone about the whole process in a better way, but we don't want to take away from the fact that this is another M&A that's happening on the African continent, right? So it's just shown another exit plan. Now we don't know at what level, or at what
Apparently, it was a stock purchase.
most likely the stock, right? A lot of these M&As are usually stock, right?
Yeah.
There might be some cash, but most
Majority stock purchase. And I think Wasoko already valued at 600 million.
Exactly. And I mean, they already raised about $140 million, right?
Yep.
So this is not a small, like these guys have raised a lot of money. And this just shows you guys how Kenya is, how Kenya is really growing. Like folks, I mean, don't get me wrong, like Nigeria is doing things, but Kenya and East Africa, those guys are making moves.
How does this align with our projections? What was it? Was it Guinea that said East Africa and South Africa?
Yeah, I said
Okay.
no.
So far,
In
somebody's
terms
on
of
track.
percentage, no key though. If this merger goes through, man, that's already one merger load that just takes them out. That shoots them up, because I said South Africa might see the high percentage growth,
Yeah.
but I think I said East will be close as well. I don't know, but we'll go back. We'll go back
We'll check it. We'll check it. Yeah.
and check that. But I mean, that's if these guys have not dabarrowed this whole deal. In the middle of the whole deal. But yeah, but just buttress your point. I think it's also a good sign to see another merger. This was announced in December, right? But at least if it goes through this year, it'll be good to see another M&A that happens on the African continent. It just shows the exit. It just shows, we're above PE. I mean, we're above PE um fanatics. So it just shows like how at least there's that opportunity there. There's that opportunity there for guys. And all stuff that we can really focus on at some point down the line. But that's good. That's good. Moving on to the last one, right? Because I know we're all pressed for time, but moving on to the last one. I thought this was really interesting because the other day, this and I were really talking about Multichoice. And for those who don't know what Multichoice is pretty much the parent company of DSTV. So you all know DSTV and GoTV, but mostly DSTV. And you guys know, I mean, they're the main cable TV provider in Africa. I think across Africa, they're the main guys, right? They've been in operations for decades, at least 2 decades or so. And there was this article that was published, which I thought was really interesting. So pretty much they recently come to a settlement with the FIRS. FIRS is pretty much the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Kind of look at it as the IRS. Look at it as the IRS for Nigeria, right? So they came to a settlement for Multichoice to pay $37.3 million. Well, that's money for Tinubu. Okay, well, digging into this whole situation, right? I think what happened was, and we can have a conversation about this, because the reason why I wanted us to talk about this is because was it last week or so there was we were just talking about another possible M&A opportunity with Multichoice being acquired for about $2.1 billion, which I thought was mind blowing. Like, how can DSTV or even DSTV alone, right, that has such a huge customer base, right, they'll be valued at $2.1 billion. But I think that deal has, I mean, the bid was rejected anyways, and that's falling through now. But coming back to this topic, right? $37.3 million. And to paint a bigger picture, right? What's the FIRS? What FIRS case is that Multichoice pretty much has not been transparent enough. They haven't given the FIRS access to the servers to really conduct their audits on Multichoice's books and transactions and everything, right? And that's why they're suing for, and I think that's why they're suing for this amount of funds, right? But since the lawsuits, it went to court, and the court actually granted. I think the initial, correct me if I'm wrong, but the initial fund was, I think they said 124 million.
It was 150 something million, right? For the tax assessment, they're saying, look, we think you owe the tax authority $150 something million.
Yeah.
Plus penalties.
something.
Yeah, the penalties another 100 and something. The total ended up being like $350 million
Yeah.
thereabout. The total ended up being easily above $300 million as
Okay.
both what you owe in tax and the incurred penalty as
Penalties and
well,
fees, yeah.
right?
So yeah. So so funny enough, I think the court actually granted them that. The court actually said, you know what, that's right. Go ahead and do your thing. But you know, a lot of these things, a lot of the settlements happen outside of court, right?
Exactly.
So the FIRS and Multichoice have since now come to an agreement. They've come to a settlement outside of court, and I think they settled on $34.2 million, right? And that's what it is. And it said even in good faith, right? Some of those, I mean, they're going to also include some of those payments that are made in good faith, right? Even, I mean, prior to this
Yeah, but I
settlement.
think after 34, they already paid because part of typical dispute process is that while we're disputing, shall pay something. So that way
Exactly.
you're not really wasting. So I think they already paid $19 million before, like during all these court processes, like okay, in good faith, wait, take this one first. So the
Exactly.
total is 34 million. So it's already paid some of that. So that's it's good news for them. It's scary news for investors of what really happened. Was it strong holding? Meaning, was it a situation where we just saw that the federal government, ransacked Dangote's office as well? Was it a situation where the regulators were just strong arming them, or was this a situation where the company was indeed owing this tax and they were evading taxes? Yeah, but for foreign investors, they will obviously have more sympathy for the foreign company and say this looks like, and just the narrative between emerging countries like Nigeria. So this looks like a situation where the tax authority is strong arming a profitable company to pay more and and try to like eat them for everything they have. So that's what it looks like optically. But either way, they settled out of court and at least an agreement has been reached. Hopefully,
Yeah.
MTN continues to comply and this issue doesn't arise to this tune again.
Yeah. And I guess I'm trying to provide a balanced view on this, right? Um, some folks might not like this, but I do agree that the FIRS, or I mean, FIRS is pretty much government, so let's not try to separate them. I don't agree. FIRS in some situation might stronghold companies, right, into overpaying or whatever, right? But when it comes to stuff like this on this scale, because we know, I mean, both of us, we both operated in this space, right? We both know, and then the companies will always try to find loopholes and try to underpay when it comes to taxes, right? Especially in emerging countries where a lot of things are not necessarily properly tracked, a lot of processes are not necessarily clear, and the system is not necessarily set up the right way to really track a lot of these things and hold people accountable. So do you think there's also a chance that in this situation that this company, like other companies have done in the past, just tried to underpay. And when it came to a time where the FRS is now trying to hold companies more accountable, right? That they didn't want to be that transparent, and they went to hold out on that situation because we both know since last year, it's come out, and I mean this is your space. It's come out since last year. And I know year over year it was always there, but I think really became apparent last year. I can't remember the exact number, but when they actually showed how much that we generate as a nation in taxes, it's so insignificant, right? It's so insignificant, man. So do you think that's a situation where, and we can't say we don't have corporations, we have businesses that are making millions and billions, right? I mean, look at a lot of these companies, right? I mean, you have to start listing them. They make billions, right, on
Yeah.
a year basis. So do you think that is not a situation where the the FIRS is now saying no, like we're tired of this. We know the system is messed up. We know the system is broken, but small by small, we have to fix this. And we're going to start by holding the top corporations accountable. Do you think that that's what's happening here?
Man, I don't want to be politically correct. I don't think.
No. Let's not be
Okay, so
politically
I can
correct.
speak freely. Well, I don't think that's the case. I just don't think I don't have enough goodwill for the FIRS. I've seen some of their dealings. So I think yes, every company tries to be creative tax wise. You're not just going to come and say, okay, I want to give all my money to government. You're trying to be creative, trying to be efficient.
Yeah.
But the difference between being creative and actually what's it called, evading tax,
Yeah.
right? Which is that one is more illegal. So you are due to pay this, you don't want to pay this. That's a crime.
Mhm.
But being creative, okay, how can we be tax efficient? That is fine. then everybody knows that
information.
FIRS is, let me not say FIRS alone. Government entities are notorious for not being about the government. So think NAFDAC, think FIRS, think all these entities. They're not really about the greater good. They're just more about extracting. Think Nigerian Port Authority, right? It's not about how can we get more people
Yeah,
to.
that system is broken. Both of that system is really broken.
Yeah, so it's not about how do we get more people to. They're not thinking about the job to be done, right? Okay, why ports? How can we get more people to export goods quicker? You know, we talk about Biogun, let's see how we optimize airports. How do you get people in and out efficiently? How do you get people to stay more, to spend more? How do you get people in and out quicker? How do we get to increase our volume that we processed in the ports? No, they're just saying 200 goods came here today. How can we make the most out of them? Okay, let's increase the rates. Boom, mathematics, quick maths. That's what they're doing. So FIRS, to be fair, they're notorious for that as well. It's more of saying, you guys are succeeding. You get, where's our own? And when I mean our own, I'm not talking about FIRS own. That's a something that goes to the government. I'm talking about our own, like, I'm a staff of FIRS. Where is my own? So I won't say more than that. You get, so, and when that situation happens, let's say it happens for like 10 years, then that staff leaves. And that staff now comes and say, hey, if I haven't been paying. He don't say that because he knows that they've been paying to the staff, not different. Hey, if I haven't been paying, start a news conversation. Where's my own share?
Yeah.
So when you not say a normal drop from, even when you say a normal drop from 300 to 37, you should also ask that, why is the government, if government said, did the calculation and assessment and figured out these guys owe us 300 million, why did they accept 37?
True.
Do you get?
True.
Then if they really accept 37 and they really owed government 300, that means Nigerians as a people, we just got cheated. You get? And if, so you have the power as an individual under the authority of FIRS to reduce my tax bill, right? So whose favor did you do that for? You did it for my favor at the expense of Nigerians. You are so kind. How do you think you get, what do you think your own outcome personally will be for that? So it's just, I've seen a lot of and the other bills, there's FIRS tax, there's ITF, Industrial Trust Fund. Every company must pay 1% of their workforce bill to the Industrial Trust Fund. We've seen some magic happen there as well. So I don't want to, like Mourinho will say, what did he say? I don't want to talk. If I talk, I'll be just take without what you will. I'm trying to say that I'm trying to even risk my, just by saying, just for the audience and everybody that's doing this in Nigeria, not to be naive about this. And when people read news like this, everybody, Nigeria's a way of making everybody's hand red. So everybody in that picture, multi-choice, the tax man, the government, there was funny mathematics that happened, and everybody kind of has a stain on their whites. All the participants in that picture. Right? So who ultimately, from that news, the biggest loser is the Nigerian public. That's just all I will say from that.
Yeah, because they're going to pay for this. So they're going to pay for this. Now, ultimately, I don't like when things like this happen. I don't celebrate or do anything. I'm like, at the end of the day, the cost ends up getting passed to the end customer, man, the end consumer. So, but yeah, I do agree. I think the main problem now is it's not necessarily that, because this is not a Nigerian thing. It's a global thing, right?
Yeah.
Companies would, I'm not gonna speak for myself, but like companies as a whole will try to find a way, right, to reduce their taxes. No one wants to work all year, have sleepless nights, right? Be on call morning, afternoon, night, do all this work there. Work their behind off, right? Just to go and not pay everything like that to government, right? So you don't even know where that money is going. Especially in a country where you don't even see where that money is even being used, right? All you're just seeing just some people that are just buying yachts up and down.
You going everywhere, you understand?
Exactly. I'm not going to sugarcoat this stuff, man. There's no point. That's what I'm here for, right? So it's harder to kind of like say, you pay that. And keep in mind, if we're seeing a lot of those funds being used in building, right, or building a better infrastructure, whether it's within the financial ecosystem or the general infrastructure, whether it's roads or amenities or schools or power, whatever it is, right, then corporations will be more susceptible to just doing that, right? But because they don't know, like, okay, where's money? I beg, let me just reduce my taxes, man. So, not to get too political, but I get it, right? I get it, right? But then again, like you said, is the end customer that suffers this kind of stuff, right? But I just, like you said, both parties are both have everyone has a part has a part to play in this whole thing, right? No one is fully innocent, right? But now that the only thing I'll just wish for now, this thing I'll wish for, because the surely has happened, there's no going back. Now they're going to collect that money. At least let's see that money go somewhere, man. All right, guys. So I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. Yeah, we covered those three topics. Like I said, this we're actually being quite consistent this year. So that's good. Let's keep it up, right? But guys, I will say this: we got so much feedback from the last two episodes that we did. So the one with Ginika, and the one with Epaga, right? We've got a lot of feedback, guys. I really appreciate it. Right? We really appreciate it. We've got the positive feedback and we got the constructive feedback as well. And we appreciate it, right? And as you will see over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be putting some new things in place to show that we're actually taking your feedback into we're actually taking your feedback and implementing those improvements. But I think that's all we have for today. Edosa, any final thoughts?
No, that's pretty much it. But thanks, guys, for the usual cooperation. Thanks for listening.
All right. And guys, yeah, thanks for listening. Just to recoup again, we talked about the Flutterwave, Flutterwave recouping $24 million that they dashed customers. Then after that, we talked about Wasoko's merger with the edition company Max AB and how that and the fallout with that with the employees. And lastly, we talked about Multichoice and the settlement with FIRS to pay about $35 million in taxes. So that brings us to the end of today's conversation. Thank you guys once again. As you know, the vibe, share this, like this, share this with your father, your mother, your auntie, your uncle, your brothers, your sister, everybody in your network, your friends, even your haters. Send it to them. Trust me, they'll forgive you after you send it to them. Okay. So, guys, we are shamelessly promoting here. Guys, go ahead, have a good week, stay blessed, stay healthy, and drink some water. All right. See you guys same time next week. Bye-bye.